DC here. Hi guys and gals. Well, hope you're all well. Today is Thursday. Yes, I was going to do this video yesterday, and finally I was at First Son of DC's and my daughter-in-law and Michael's, and we spent the evening together. No, I didn't make video. I took a few pictures, but I didn't make video. And yeah, her mother was there because they live in the same building, so to say. So they each have their own place to live. But so she came over, and we spent, like I say, part of the evening together. Mrs. DC sadly was working, so you know that's just the way it was. I thought I'd come and chat about something I've been wanting to chat for a while, and it's been kind of interesting because in the events in America in the last while kind of touched up on that. It's the we could say ancestry of certain people, and a certain politician was talking about having I think they call them Native American now. You never know if you should say Indian American. No, you wouldn't say Indian American. You will never know if you should say Native American or American Indian, or I guess you say Native American. And in Canada they say First Nations, but you know, we're talking about actually the original people on the North American soil. Most of us actually are from settler stock, not immigrants, but settler stock, I would say. That's probably a better way of putting it. Actually, it's a more realistic way of putting it. Well, this person anyway said that she had a certain amount of Native American heritage, and ended up that it's probably 1 out of 1,000 or something like that. It doesn't matter. What I'm just coming at, it's actually very little. But I wanted to chat about that in a way because a lot of us think that we have Native American or First Nation or what, and finally when we have our DNA tests, like myself for example, none is to be found. Now, the person I mentioned said in their lore, you know, that they, I think her mother or something, or grandmother or what, would have been Native American, and it seems like it's like 6 or 10 generations. Now, why I get to that is because when you have these DNA tests, yeah, you get like 50% of your parents, you know, 50-50, and nobody says which 50 it is. So you could actually have two siblings, and one would get more of, let's say, the Native American side than the other. Just saying, you know. So when I see that somebody says, you know, well, maybe if it was very close, you wouldn't expect that. But I mean, if it's like 6 or 10 generations, like they were talking in her case, it's really no surprise that after those you might not have nothing that shows. Still doesn't mean that there isn't, you know, a certain relative. Now, on my family, we always used to say on my dad's side that, like, probably at the 4th generation, probably from me, there was some Indian in there. Oh, you see, I say Indian, sorry. First Nations in there. And the thing is that it might be true, but it might be in a way relative to, you know, like a great-great-great-great-great-grandfather's brother or cousin. You know what I mean? So in the family story, yeah, we've got somewhere relatives which are Native American or First Nation or what, but are they in a straight line with us as well? You see, that's another thing as well. Now, one thing that came out in our tests, and we always, of course, from the French side, because I'm from a bilingual family, so English speaking, French speaking. The English speaking side essentially comes from England and Ireland. When you look at the genealogies, so the family trees, which I've done and like one of my cousins have done, that's very, very clear. People came over, settled into America, moved in. Actually, some of them fled probably America in the colonial wars and came over to Canada at the time, from Massachusetts and New Hampshire mostly. But on the French side, the genealogies clearly go back up to France. Okay, But going over that, when we had our DNA test made, and especially for Mrs. DC, it was kind of a shock that she had no French. Now, when one reads history books, and I've been reading some history treatises, actually, it were before people were doing many DNA tests, they were saying that the people in Quebec, generally, because that's where we come from in Canada, the French-speaking people in Quebec essentially came from Brittany and Normandy. And Brittany and Normandy had a lot of maritime people. That's where we get, for example, in our DNA, probably some of the Italian and Spanish components. But most of the people that were there were from stock, so we could say DNA heritage, from British Isles, and or being from British Isles meant also maybe eventually from Vikings and so on. And they were, some papers were there saying that actually this has never been talked about so much in Quebec and French Canada, because, that kind of like dilutes the we want to be French part. Now, the thing is, it's kind of like all hogwash in a way. What I mean by all hogwash in a way is that the people culturally that came over and so on, they had the French culture and so on. But the DNA material was still, and pretty well homogeneously, a lot of the people that came over from Europe, strangely enough in Canada, ended up having more or less British-style DNA. So that's funny in a way, because it takes that persons like myself, I have even more, but people like Mrs. DC has a lot. She's like more than 50%. And where it's amusing, because like when we got married, I know that certain members of her family saw it almost as, she's marrying into, almost as if she's marrying into another race, because I was the English-speaking person. That's quite amusing in a way. Almost ironic, actually. We laughed, actually, Mrs. DC and I, we laughed a lot when we saw that. We were just mentioning that as well. So you see, I'm bringing all that to say is that it's really not so easy. Most of the people, if you haven't come from Hispanic or native population sides, you most probably will end up having, European DNA. And like I say, in the French Quebec, essentially it's from one part of France, which is like I just explained, so that's quite amusing. If you're in America, it's probably more varied. There'll of course be a lot of Irish, there always will be, but there's going to be a lot more Eastern European, for example, Polish, or there might be Ukrainians and so on. So you get that stock from other parts of the world, which like I say, we end up not having so much from where I come from originally. Well, now we're bringing our DNA back, into Switzerland. Having said that, just quickly to say is that like my daughter-in-law, who's Spanish, she's clearly you can tell they're from there, the Spanish DNA, we could say. Second son of DC's partner, who was Italian, same thing, very much Italian. But like I say, us less. So that was just a little chat around that little political turmoil that's been going on lately. I laugh about it because I don't find it very amusing to see somebody who takes advantage of 10th generation DNA. But that's another story. I won't get into the politics of the thing. But if you find very little, I'm not surprised. And it's a lot more complicated than people think. So now to go back very quickly, because I've been talking for a long time. To go back quickly, I would say is that family stories very often are based on things that that we like to talk about. Are they true? Usually they are up to a point, but we kind of blur the lines. Like I say, we will always say in our family that there was First Nation people in the family, but if you look by my DNA, I can't prove it, even less than that certain person I was talking about. So yeah, DC signing off. Have fun and, look at the genealogies, look at your DNA, and take it as your family history it comes along. I mean, because that's the thing. Your DNA is just like where you're from, so to say. Your family history is who you are. Okay, anyway. DC signing off. Take care, everybody. And this will be a long vlog. Bye-bye.